So, you thought I would never follow up on this video, huh? You thought I would forget, huh? Since I made my first video about hybrid units, HSR has seen a plethora of new characters added to the game. Many of these characters have had truly unique designs, but still fall into just one role. There are those few characters though who reach even higher. They transcend their traditional path and become a force unlike anything else in this game. These are hybrid characters, and today, I'll be talking about the ones added since my last video last year. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, join our Discord down below, become a YouTube member today, and let's get into it. Since my last video on the subject, hybrid characters have become, a lot more common nowadays. I went from struggling to find even 5 characters to having to debate how much I wanted to cut the list this time around. If that's not a glow up, I don't know what is. Many of these characters, while being hybrids, also have some of the most unique designs in the entire game, which simply adds another factor to love about these unique units. Almost all of our units today come from Amphoreus, really highlighting the progression of HSR. Many characters are still very much meant to fill in one spot and that's it, but we've seen even those characters get kits that allow them to be more flexible in what they do and where they appear. I very much love the path the game has been on, at least in terms of unique kits, so I'm excited to finally start talking about them. Without further ado, let's get into our first character of the day. You know her, and though you may not love her, she's one of the best supports in HSR right now. Let's talk about Tribby. Tribby is a Quantum Harmony 5-star released in version 3.1. As a Harmony character, she offers fantastic buffs to your team, unique utility with a fast-acting ultimate, and nuclear warfare. Wait, what? On top of increasing ally damage, which is what Harmony is known for, she also increases damage taken by enemies, something not quite as commonplace for Harmony characters. You know what else isn't commonplace for Harmony characters? Dealing more damage than your main DPS. And yet, there's a reason Tribby is on this list. Tribby has a damage level that is comparable to a 4-star DPS. To have that as a Harmony character is unbelievable. You would think this means some of her buffs or advantages get sacrificed, but no. Quite literally, not at all. Tribby offers a 24% res pen zone to allies, which is something often reserved for like an E6 DPS Eidolon, and she can increase damage taken by a flat 30% while her ult is up. For reference, that's comparable to the Nihility character Zhao Cho, and only 10% off of Cypher's vulnerability amp. Is that not insane to hear out loud? When's the last time anyone properly took a minute to process just how much of an enigma Tribby is? Not just as a powerful character, but also in how she as a character is constructed. Would you like to know, in the Harmony roster, who else can buff a teammate while also specifically making enemies take more damage? Which, by the way, this is something often reserved for Nihility kits rather than Harmony kits. The answer to my question? 1. The only other character I could find who could do this at Tribby's release was Hanya. That says a lot about the enigma that is Hanya, but much more so about how special Tribby is. Going back to the Harmony versus Nihility debate, that reasoning is part of what makes Tribby so unique and interesting to me. I've discussed this many times, but Nihility is the path that tears enemies down. That's what all the characters do with their different debuffs. This stands in a direct contrast to Harmony, often uplifting allies to make them stronger. Sunday, Robin, Ron Mei, Ting Yun, they all increase the strength of allies. For Tribby to do both is honestly really interesting to me, and I found it very strange at the time of release. This is something I feel most other people wouldn't focus on or care about, but I personally just find that design choice really interesting to this day. This definitely stands out as the biggest aspect of Tribby being a hybrid character, as long as you ignore the, well, you know. Her damage dealing capabilities basically replacing that of a sub DPS is genuinely remarkable, and it's not comparable to any other character that came before her. Add in her unique energy situation, being able to be the best user of the Broken Light Cone Dance Dance Dance, and we have a character unlike any other in Star Rail. The next character today is going to be one I have covered constantly, to the point I don't really want to talk about him anymore, but this is my job and I'm gonna do it. So say hello to the next hybrid character on the list, Nexa. Now some of you might be asking, well, how is Nexa a hybrid character? He's just a DPS that does damage, right? Right you are, viewer. He is in fact just a DPS. However, he's no normal DPS. The way Annexa has been constructed is simply mind-boggling at this point. How they intended this character to be and what he became are so far separate, I can't even process it. Annexa is a Wind Erudition 5-star, released in version 3.2. He was on the same patch as Castorus, so as a result of that, was heavily overlooked by most non-Madame Herta players. At the end of the day though, this was not a character to overlook. Meant to be a sub-DPS for Herta, Annexa immediately exceeded all expectations, and genuinely serves better as a main DPS than a sub-DPS. This isn't to say he's bad as a sub-DPS though. He still has immense value and is probably the best option overall. The fact of the matter is, his value as a main DPS is that much higher than as a sub-DPS. Annexa is a hybrid character because of that ability to become one of the most versatile characters in Honkai Star Rail. You want him to be your main DPS? You have multiple builds and options for that. You want him to be a sub-DPS? Slap Eagle set on and watch him go. You want a break character? He can do that. You want a debuffer? He can do that too. This kit is simply insane in every single category. I would go as far to say that there is no character in HSR who can do what Annexa does. His kit is jam-packed, and you feel every part of it, no matter how you use him. He's capable of shredding enemy defense up to 28% entirely on his own. That is not normal. Most characters need Eidolons, light cones, or even other teammates to achieve that, but for Annexa, he does it all by himself. This is without even talking about his ultimate, Sprouting Life Sculpts Earth. This will halt enemies in their tracks if they have no control res, allowing you to even interrupt bosses with multiple actions. You get all of this while Annexa is also one of the best damage dealers in HSR with his skill being Bounce, meaning single targets get decimated by it. All in all, Annexa stands as just something unusual. He has a mechanic similar to Ron May delaying enemies, an insane amount of defense shred built into his kit, and a higher damage output than the character he's made as a support for. All the while, possessing the flexibility to be any sort of DPS you want him to be. This may not seem as hybrid to some of you watching, but go try this with the Herta, Aglaya, or Acheron and get back to me. Trust me, this is easily one of the best designs and most unique designs in HSR. Let's now move on to our next character. Do you all remember the inclusion of Ling Sha and Avon on the last list? Well, somehow, we've reached the next stage in the evolution of that character archetype. Allow me to introduce you to Hyacinth, arguably the most broken character in HSR. If you thought the other DPS sustains were bad, you know nothing of what true terror looks like. I have seen Hyacinth consistently deal upwards of 300,000 damage. This is while at the same time, your whole team is at full HP! This, viewer, is what the devil personified looks like. That pretty pink hair, the cutesy dress, the adorable fat creature, all lies and deceit. This is the true face of terror, and there is no hope for survival. Anyway, let's actually talk about Hyacinth. Hyacinth is a Win Remembrance character released in version 3.3. As previously described, she fits in the mold of the DPS Sustain hybrid, possessing incredible sustain capabilities and being able to dish out heavy damage all in one package. A funny note while researching this video, Hyacinth's kit only mentions damage twice. This is because in the two character combo of Hyacinth and Ika is the one doing all the damage. This is pretty different from Ling Sha, who has her basic attack, ult, and skill all do damage by her own hands. Her summon also will do damage upon use similar to Ika. My silly tangent aside, Hyacinth's kit focuses entirely on heavily sustaining the party at all times. Her ult will increase the max HP of all characters on the team, and her skill heals the entire party and Ika if already summoned. Every time the team has their HP restored, little Ika does more damage, stacking up to 3 times. The max damage number from this talent, you ask? 240%. Little Ika also scales off of how much healing is done, using 20% of that tally to determine initial damage. This is a character combo unlike any other. Aventurine as a character had his damage linked to his sustainability. The better he sustained, the more damage he could consistently do. Hyacinth takes this formula and pushes past its limits. Instead, the more sustaining Hyacinth does, the stronger the attacks get, with just as much consistency as Aventurine. The damage potential is simply higher with no downside really. This isn't simply a hybrid character, but one of the most insane designs I've seen in a game. Just like Tribby, this is a character who can greatly outdamage true DPS characters. And I haven't even touched on her Eidolons yet. Hyacinth has an Eidolon that will actually give her increased crit damage for every speed over 200 that she has. Pairing with an earlier Eidolon that gives a bonus 30% speed, players would get, at minimum, an additional 60% crit damage. Yeah, Hyacinth represents what I hope is the final evolution of the Sustain DPS hybrid. Mainly because, if she isn't the final evolution, I shudder to think about what comes next. Speaking of shuddering at what's next, say hello to a meta player's nightmare. The character-specific, damage-dealing support, Cyrene. Cyrene is the same support style as Tribby, having some powerful buffs and even better damage-dealing capabilities. Man, they really like that archetype in Amphorius, huh? Anyway, Cyrene starts out strong, with buffs very few characters have and a far more accessible way to use them. Upon using skill, Cyrene casts a true damage zone. This zone increases your damage immensely and is more accessible than any other form of true damage. Her hybrid capabilities start after the first use of her ult. She gains an enhanced attack, outputting a fair amount of damage. This, on top of her powerful true damage zone, really helps shred a lot of enemies. Her ult is a big factor in this hybrid capability too. Her ult is a massive AoE blast, often dealing upwards of 250k damage. Yes, it's a slow ult, but that much damage is nice regardless, and it won't be too hard to charge in optimal teams specifically. Cyrene overall is just a strange character. She possesses a permanent memo sprite, which isn't uncommon, but what is unique is that her memo sprite acts more like a summon. You can't target or kill it like you can with other memo sprites, but you can't target it either as an ally. Instead, only Cyrene on the ground can be influenced by what goes on in your team. This design is completely unique to her, and is something I doubt we'll see in Remembrance characters going forward. Since any character of any path can have a summon, giving a memo the same functioning as one while still being on a Remembrance character is really odd, to say the least. I wish I could explain it better than this, or offer some more insight, but unfortunately, I can't. Cyrene and the whole of 3.7 were a bit buggy overall because of this unique design as well, which makes how this came to be even more perplexing. A support who has the power to do massive damage with a memo sprite that acts like a summon. She's a hybrid character for sure, but more than that, Cyrene is one of the most unique characters in HSR history. All of this without factoring in, she takes the unique trait of Emanators. They require specific characters to be at their strongest, and so does Cyrene. Instead of it just being a path, however, she can make full use of any Chrysos Heir character. A fun change of pace that really does add to the lore of the character, and can be a fun addition going into the future. No matter how you feel about Cyrene, saying she's one of the more unique characters in this game is definitely true. Alright, so just to mix things up, since obviously every new character recently has been from Amphorius, let's take some time to discuss one of the buffed characters we had this update. Which buffed character could possibly be considered a hybrid, you ask? Well, Blade used to be a big example of one, but nowadays, he's mainly just an HP unit with counter capabilities. Still heavily unique, considering he has an enhanced basic attack and a consistent counter, which is something that basically no other counter character has, but we'll move on from him to talk about a truly interesting case. I'm talking about none other than the front woman of the Stellaron Hunters, Kafka. How is Kafka a hybrid, you may be asking? Well, probably not at this point. I imagine you know I'm gonna explain it to you. But if you are specifically asking, let me explain. Kafka is a Lightning Nihility character released in version 1.2 and buffed in version 3.4. She stands as one of the most unique characters in HSR, detonating damage over time abilities that normally only activate on enemy turns. This is already huge and made her essential to any good DOT team. Her changes, however, put her in a far more interesting spot as a character. The important thing about Kafka is that her damage has always been poor without other DOT characters. She relied heavily on Sampo, Black Swan, and now Hysolins to really get anything done. Ever since her buffs, her personal damage now matters less than ever before. That sounds weird when you see a Kafka skill do 300,000 damage, but that's not actually her damage. An often misunderstood concept about DOT and Kafka is how the damage works. As mentioned earlier, when an enemy moves, that's when they take DOT damage. This damage is pretty powerful, but having it come up so rarely is a serious problem. This is how Kafka and Detonation works. Every time Kafka does a follow-up, skill, or ultimate, DOT damage is detonated. This is not Kafka's damage, but rather the collective DOT damage from your other characters. That still makes Kafka absolutely essential to the team, opening up the potential for that much more damage, but it's not fair to call her the DPS either. Kafka is best described as an engine. She powers DOT to work to the best of its ability, detonating damage and enhancing allies. This is where she claims the role of a hybrid character. She helps with damage, yes, but in such an interesting way, and her new buffs actually give her some support tendencies. She has a trace that increases ally attack when they have over 75% effect hit rate, which every good DOT ally has. This is a massive boost, and allows you to go without running another support like Robin or Ron May. Instead, Kafka has you covered in terms of a raw power increase. These changes push Kafka into something very unique, and unseen in my opinion. She is the most responsible for the party's damage, while in actuality, she has very little influence over it. She also has a support capability, while everything about her is damaging. If this doesn't sound like a hybrid character to you, I do not know what is. We now arrive at the last character I want to talk about today. There were a few others who could have been considered, but I don't get to talk about this guy much. As a result, I'm including him regardless. Let's end today with the bringer of the dawn, Paiano. Now, Paiano is not really a normal hybrid character. He is in fact just a very powerful DPS. It isn't like a Nexa either, where he's incredibly versatile and can be molded to the situation. No, Paiano is the situation. He is the center point of every fight, and serves only to be a true hyper carry. Where his hybrid element comes from, in my opinion, is from his ultimate. This is going to be a reach, but I want to talk about this and get it out there. Paiano is a transformation character who gains a new form and abilities when he uses his ult. The ability I want to talk about is the middle ability, which is a counter. Let me say, this is the best counter character in the game. Not Paiano, no. This singular move. This is better than the entirety of Yunli and Clara's kits, and it's not even close. Upon using this ability, Paiano will action advance all enemies to attack him. He will block every hit, and when it goes back to his turn, he will unleash his attack, dealing massive damage to all enemies, gaining power for every time he was attacked. I do feel his moveset is a great hybrid of many things, having a unique kit that is adaptable to most situations. He can succeed in AoE, single target, and just about anything in between. He also encourages a sustainless style, but can also utilize a sustain considering how he gains his core flame stacks. Paiano possesses many interesting qualities that make up the character that he is. But I did in fact put him on this list because he somehow merges being a hyper carry DPS perfectly with that of a counter DPS. And he does it better than the other actual options available in the game. That is tragic, to say the least. Honkai Star Rail is a silly game, folks, but I love it all the same. With all that said, that ends our video for today. I last explored this topic so long ago, so getting to look at it again was genuinely so much more fun than I expected. I really hope you guys enjoyed as much as I did, and look forward to a few other concepts coming back to the channel soon. I really enjoy getting to play and talk about this game a lot, and even when it's struggling or not swimming in attention, I'll be sure to still make quality content for you all. Thanks for watching. I got plenty of more good videos coming out soon, so I will see you guys then. Bye bye!